Hi, I'm Jackie Rabbit. Today I want to talk to the spouses of partners in transition. Are you the spouse of a partner in transition? If so, I want to talk to you today. I realize there's very little support for you, and I'd like to create a space for you on a regular basis. So I want to speak directly to you, and hopefully we can help each other in the process. Go give me a thumbs up and subscribe so you know the next time we talk about this, and you'll realize there's more support now because we're going to bring it forward to you on a regular basis. Let's go talk about what it means to be the spouse of a person in transition and how can we help one another through it. Let's go talk about it. Are you the spouse of a partner in transition? If you are, you've come to the right video. I know, I'm trans, and I've been through this. But not on your side of the fence. But I know one thing. There's very little support out there for the spouse of a person in transition. So I thought maybe we should all come together on this and help one another through it. So many of us have grieves of loss over what didn't work out in our marriages. And some managed to create a marriage built on more love, more trust, and a friendship that they didn't even have before. So why does it work for some and not for others, especially when they really want it to work out? Well, ultimately, it has to come down to the foundation of a marriage, the type of love you had previously, the kind of person you are, your beliefs and your desires and everything else. So it becomes very personal. But one thing I have noticed through this process is that there's extremely little support for the spouse of a person in transition. So it seems to me we need to talk about this. Normally, I talk mostly to my sisters who are going through transition or trying to discover where to go, or have been there, done that, and are living their lives, and we talk about what that is. But right now, I want to talk to you, the spouse of a person in transition, and acknowledge you're in a tough place. I 100% know how you feel at this moment. You're confused and upset, and there's emotions and frustrations and everything else, and you're trying to figure it all out. And what will your future be? So I want to discuss it with you. And I know it's touchy and it's difficult, but I'll do my very best. No, first and foremost, I very much empathize with your position. And so do most of my viewers. We know it's tough for you. We know there's so little help for you. But I'll go through some of the things that I understood going through transition, what I can see now, looking back at how I responded, how I thought, how I felt, the things I said that made the difference or didn't make the difference. And maybe somehow you can find something in there that'll help you out. So understand, I very much feel for you. This is a difficult thing to have a partner come to you and say, I'm trans, and we need to figure this out. I will say that the best communication that you're going to have with your spouse is going to be calm and kind and loving. And even when frustrations rage and tempers flare, the best possible thing you can do is stay calm, communicate honestly, keep an open mind, and just weather a storm if there is one to weather. Now, if both of you can remain in a very honest and communicating manner throughout the process, you really are doing quite well in the fact that you're being honest with each other, you're communicating, and you're not running on emotional highs, not making wise decisions. And unfortunately, that's kind of rare. When spouses tangle, a lot of emotions and frustrations come to the surface, and sometimes we act upon them or speak upon that action, and it doesn't really serve us, does it? So the one thing that I tell my sisters quite often is we need to be calm and kind and loving, listen carefully, and respond with love. So I would say the same holds true for the spouse of a person in transition if communication is to be actually made. So communicating is going to be the number one thing It's got to be honest. You got to keep an open mind, all those things. I don't want to tell you what to do, but I do want to help you through the possibility if you're looking for a pathway to stay with your spouse. That's not the pathway for everybody. I look back at myself and I realized I went through these stages. In the beginning, I was filled with doubt and fear and was just clinging to my spouse like glue. I'd entered this phase of emotional roller coasterness, but I'd also achieved this emotional love that I'd never had before that was so powerful. And it was this whirlpool of emotional tugging, you know. Ultimately, my spouse felt that giving me freedom to do what I needed to do was important. And in a way, that is a sort of love, a selfless kind of putting oneself on the altar of love, losing for love, shall we say, in an effort to set someone free. And while I really didn't like the horrible, horrible freedom, with time, we're working towards friendship. And I think that had I had some of my own messages that I give today, I would be on that road or there much sooner. But I've learned through the bumpy road how to guide others through it. So I will help you navigate some of the road that I can see parallel to my own and hope somehow it does shed a light on this dark road you're traveling. Most of the trans women that I know that are in my age group and have been married really did want to retain their marriage, their spouse. In fact, most of them have been so emotionally tied to their spouse that they're scared to do much of any transitioning. And unfortunately, that's not terribly healthy either, and can lead to other frustrations. So progress versus retaining a spouse, it's tough. It's a tough balance. But I find that with those couples that I've observed that have made it, that have actually made it together, the one thing I've noticed is patience, kindness, a willingness to listen, some progress in transition, because progress is necessary to actually transition, and a spouse who is keeping an open mind and foremost transitioning with their partner. So the thing I've noticed for those who have made it and have a successful marriage afterwards is the staying together through the process while they literally transition together during this time of transition of the one partner. So a spouse of a person in transition that wants to stay with them and stay together and build a new life and a new type of relationship going forward will really quite need to be there for the whole thing. The absence is actually what I've noticed and observed that creates a rift. So when the transitioning partner is away from either family members or friends or kids or spouses, that distance in time tends to put a divide. So it is important to transition together. Now that does really put a lot of stress on that spouse of the person in transition. And there just isn't enough support for you, that person. I have seen some things out there that claim to be supportive. Articles, forums that talk about it, that sort of thing. I did a lot of searching on my own early on for my own spouse. And we actually both found that the information out there is quite negative and has a very large overtone of run now. And I don't think that's necessary. But I will say I also want to recognize that the spouse of a person in transition will face just as much negative ridicule, negativity in general, and judgment as the person in transition. We don't often think of this on our side of the fence, do we, girls? Some of us don't really think of all the things that that person has to face. The fact that they will face ridicule from inside their family, from inside their colleagues and friends. There will be words behind their back, and they can't get rid of it. So even if that person, even if that spouse were to leave and try to put some distance between what the spouse's transition might cast upon them, or if they stay and work it all out. There are always those negative judgments on them in either direction. They're not going to get rid of the idea that their partner transitioned, whether they leave right away or never, or anything in between. They're kind of stuck with this, just like as a transitioning person, you have to go out into the world visibly and be rather judged and have to just deal with it as you go through this transitioning period. And they've got to face their own. They're with a person in transition. People make some assumptions. People make judgments, even though we know they should not. We know that, but they do. And so that spouse of a person in transition faces a lot of that too. If not the same amount, just different things. And of course, their insecurities, like our own, will lead their brain to look at a false, fictitious future, which is horrifying and scary. We all know how that works, right? We know how our own insecurities create this fictional, terrifying future of everybody staring at us, and they all know, and oh my goodness, how am I going to possibly face the real world? They've got some of the same stuff going on, but as we have to just put that aside and live our lives and move forward, if they find a way to do that, if you, the spouse of a person in transition, find a way to simply muscle through the transitory period to get to the other side, it's not forever. It's something that does eventually start subsiding. It is very scary in the beginning and it's difficult through the process, but it does get better with time. Just as trans women like myself get to a point where they get to just operate in the world fairly smoothly, my world is easy. I go to the grocery store, I go do whatever I need to do, pump gas, deal with customers at work, and nobody sees anything other than Jackie, the woman at the front desk, the woman pumping gas into her Volvo. They don't see anything. I go get a chain for my bicycle, and it's the girl that needs a chain for her bicycle. They don't see anything anymore. And why would they? I'm a woman, and that's all anyone ever perceives. Now, if my partner were with me, what do they really see? Now, I know immediately what you're thinking because it's almost the same thing I have seen and observed in every instance of the beginning of a spouse with a person who is in transition, a partner in transition. The labels. But they'll see me as a lesbian. No, they won't. I don't think they will. Now, I can't say that for certain. It depends on where you live. It depends on what people see. And it also depends on your interaction with that person in public. Now, unless you're all over that person in public and displaying a PDA of monumental proportion, I sincerely doubt when two people see two women out in public discussing things, laughing about things, holding hands, sitting together, sipping coffee. They don't see two lesbians. They see two girls out having a good time because that is a very normal activity for most women. I go out with the friends of mine at the little car club I belong to. Oddly enough, most of the members are women. We have these little sports cars, which are a little bit girly, and we have a good time. And if we go out for tea or coffee, or I go out with just one of them, or my best friend, people don't see lesbians. People see a couple of friends out having a nice time, chit-chatting. Even if we walk away holding hands or something. And I'm not the only one. I've seen a couple of the other girls. They're great friends or they're besties, and they will hold hands. Well, here in Northern California, honestly, that just is not looked upon as anything other than being friends. Now, maybe other places, the act of holding hands might be a little much, but you can judge that. And it depends on what you want to do. Now, with time, I've noticed that all of my friends have completely relaxed with the idea and don't worry about labels anymore. Because nobody bothers us. Nobody says anything. It's not going to happen, at least not where I am. But I know that the insecurity and fear of what will happen as everyone sees me as a lesbian, how that feels in your head. Because I face it too. Everyone has to look at me. And if I'm displaying a PDA with a girl in public, I will be viewed as a lesbian, wouldn't I? That could happen. And I will just have to be okay with that if that's the course of my life. And being the person I am, that's fairly likely. So I understand how that label can be a bit scary. I really do. But I don't want you to worry about the labels. Throw them out. That is part of keeping an open mind. If you get through this process of transition with your spouse, if you work through it, if you're kind and you listen, they listen and they're kind, and you can honestly communicate about how you feel, what you need, and how to achieve supporting one another, you have a really good shot at getting through this together and having a better but different relationship in the end. Yes, physically, they are going to be a different person on the outside. Internally, they go through a process of regrowth and renewal. Some of us work very hard at it, as I have just absolutely made a focus of my inner self, trying to make sure that I am a better person on the inside as well as anything I achieve on the outside. And I don't think that's uncommon. I think a lot of trans women do focus on being the better version of themselves as they go through the process. Why would you not want to be the better you while going through something so difficult? If you're rebuilding, just clean it up as you go. Get rid of the things that don't fit and just polish what you have, Polish what you have. That's the inside. And so the partner you may end up with as a spouse might be quite a different person, more caring, more friendly, a better listener, somebody who doesn't often get quite nearly as frustrated or angry. One of the things I've noticed is I don't have a temper. I did before. I certainly would have gotten hot under the collar about a number of things and gotten emotional and upset. I don't seem to do that anymore. And I've been in some situations where I've really been tested. And it's a very different way to be. The testosterone in my system certainly affected me emotionally, just as estrogen now does in my system. But I operate much like most women, and I much prefer it. It has made me a better person, but I've worked on that as well. I've really put the time and effort into trying to research, study, and practice being the better self. And that's an ongoing thing. I'm no perfect person, but I'm a better potential spouse now than I ever was before. And as far as the physical outside, I don't know. I think that you can get used to anything. I'll tell you this. I'm a much more attractive woman than I ever was as a male. So I look way better now than I ever did before. I don't think you have to worry about the hang-ups of that right now. If you're early in this and questioning and not trying to figure out what it matters, what it doesn't matter, don't worry about that stuff. Let that stuff come with time. Spend the time. Don't make knee-jerk reactions right now. You don't have to make a decision. Life isn't so short that you couldn't just kind of see where it's going to go. If you really want to put yourself out there and see where this will go with your spouse, you might be surprised. Now, there is risk involved, but nobody said being in a relationship didn't involve risk. In fact, to be connected and vulnerable with your spouse, you do involve risk. And that never really truly ends, even if we end up in this place of security. The evolving change of a person throughout their lifetime means that nothing really stays the same, nor should it be expected to. However, a person in your life, a spouse telling you they're about to transition, is a huge change. Huge. I understand that. But if you are willing to act in love and kindness, see where it goes and keep an open mind, you might be quite surprised where the destination will lead you. And you might really like it. It might be something you really enjoy. There could be shoe shopping. There could be clothes shopping. There could be really fun things down this road. You might be the Sherpa for a little bit for your new spouse, but eventually you might have a spouse who is also your very best friend. And I actually think that's a wonderful thing to think that could occur. So I know there's no support for you. I'm going to bring this topic up. I'm going to start talking to more people about it. We're going to work on this. This will be a regular thing. I will, at the very least, once a month, we will talk about this and provide more support, more helping each other through on both sides of this. I think that it's important for me to help my trans sisters, but it's also important for me to help you, the spouse of a partner in transition, because I know there is an absolute vacuum in the world of support for you. So I'm going to start really working on this in earnest, and this is just my first attempt. So stay with me on this. Go bring me some comments. Now I'll remind everybody, be nice. This is tough for everybody, and I want everyone to be courteous and kind. If you have feelings, and describe them and let me know how you feel. And I'll do my very best to help everyone find a new beginning and get through this. I usually tell everyone right through the entire process, therapy is the most important thing. And I've held that topic all the way to the end. So if you've gone this far, you really are serious about wanting to do something with your spouse and make it through. So I will say now, therapy for them independently, therapy for you independently, and therapy together is going to be vitally important to get through the months and years of transition if you're going to go through it together. It will be tough. It will tax your finances, but find a way. It's very important. DIYing this is not the way to go. Professional help is required, and I personally don't think there's any stigma against any of it. Please don't think of getting a therapist as holding some stigma against you. This is a professional who will help guide you through the process. If you were going through the badlands of some mountainous region, you'd want a guide, would you not? Maybe even more than one. That's what your therapist is there for. So know that I care. Know that it matters to me and that you are not alone. You are not alone. Please trust me when I tell you it matters to me deep in my core, and most of the women here who come and watch me, they understand. They really do. And they want the best for you as well. Please know there is a future, but you get to make your decisions. And any decision you make is okay. You have to do for you just as your spouse is doing for themselves. Just act in kindness and love, and you can't go wrong. You'll be just fine. Take care of yourself. I'll see all of you next time, but I will remind you, transgenderpulse.com is a great place to find people who know more about this topic. If you're looking for a place to have people listen and chime in on this particular topic, it is a very decent place. I was actually talking with someone about this very thing last night. That's why we're talking about it today. So, transgenderpulse.com. Great members, great moderators, really good, safe place to discuss this topic. I absolutely encourage you to go there. Tell them that Jackie sent you. I'll see you next time. Bye. I was recently talking with somebody and filling out paperwork, and I was trying to get everything done, and I'm using my new name, It's been legal for over a year now. And as I went through everything and filled it out, I didn't consider anything of what I was doing or whether it would be a problem. I just figured it would all work out, I've done all the legal name change stuff. So a few days later, I get a call that there's a problem, and they think there's fraud involved. And I'm like, well, no. And I don't want to have to explain anything. I'm at a point in my life where I don't tell people about my background. I don't need to. So I was really worried I was going to have to do this. And I focused on this one thing. Oh no, I'm going to have to say, I'm going to have to tell. Oh, I'm going to have to explain. I'm going to have to find my old driver's license or something. And I went through all these emotions and everything. And after a bit, I got a call back saying, oh, I see in your paperwork that you actually signed everything Jackie. Yeah. Oh, well, here your legal name is Jacqueline. So I guess we just need to change it all to Jacqueline and it'll be fine. And it was. I didn't sign with my full legal name, and I was so worried that it was the other thing, and it wasn't. All my insecurities weren't for nothing. Sometimes I think it's funny. I get all wound up, and all it is I just used my short name instead of my full legal name. Oh, I need to relax some days.